Hi everyone, this is the SIG Cluster Lifecycle meeting on Wednesday the 25th, and today we're talking about kubeadm, AJ, self-hosting, and more implementation-centric details as compared to the general SIG meeting yesterday. And yeah, first let's take self-hosting and get an update on that one.
So the comment I made was we're officially going to drop the daemon set surge strategy and keep what we have in kubeadm. Yes. The only other update was the same update as I had yesterday. I need to get my PR refreshed. I have it mostly done. I need to go through and do some testing for the checkpointing stuff. I talked with Yuju and it implements her version of it, and it's a lot simpler. So I'm going to get that pushed as soon as I can. I have some other things on my plate that are higher priority at the moment, so I have to finish those things first.
Cool. And speaking about finishing tasks, I'm pushing the upgrade doc as we speak here. I'll ping you on that later. Yeah, I mean, well, in the new upgrade proposal, I wrote that we could do, or actually I'm splitting the current upgrades proposal into two proposals, one for self-hosting generically and one for upgrades themselves. And so basically, when not doing the surging daemon set strategy, we have two options. We could discuss which one of them we think are safer. So the current way is we duplicate the current daemon set and have that temporarily there as a fallback when the actual API server pod is removed. But we could also, so the benefit there is that we could technically do it remotely, right? So we have, like, I execute kubeadm on my laptop against my GC cluster that is running kubeadm. But the problem is, like, it's kind of fragile. At least that is my interpretation, because we're relying on these, like, we're relying basically that on that the API server crash loops without failing for a certain period of time. So it tries to bind a port and stays up for a minute or so without actually exiting one. So yeah, I don't know. The other option is to, like, downgrade it temporarily to a static pod, or let the static pod be the, like, fallback thing. That has a disadvantage that we have to be on the node itself.
So just for clarification for those who are listening and trying to understand it, this only affects a single node condition.
Yeah.
It does not affect high availability. So if you're in high availability mode, you can just roll away and you should be fine. So it only affects the surge strategy exists because if you had a single API server, you'd want the new pod to be coming up before the old pod is torn down. The problem is if we did a rolling upgrade with it's like a chicken egg problem, right? You need the API server in order to do the upgrade, and now it's, like, gone. So it's a weird scenario. It's an edge case. It's not an edge case, according to, I've been told not to call them edge cases. It's a use case that exists, but it has corners that you can bonk your head on.
Yeah, so what I implemented was the, like, remote friendly option that copies the daemon set and makes it all executable remotely. The bad thing with this approach is that in case something fails, there's no rollback possibility. So there's, well, it's kind of scary at the same time to upgrade, but, well, in case something fails, you're on your own, right? So that's the current situation, and that's why that is alpha, right? So because I mean, if we kill the API server and it doesn't come up, what do we do if we're remote? If we go with the third option to write static pods in between, we could mitigate that, as we know static pods are working. But
could we always stage, like do a stage and pivot for everything? So if you staged and pivot for everything, like, lay down the API server as a static pod and then pivot for the main one, right? You're going to have port conflicts, right? Is that the main problem that you have?
So the main, well, what we could do is basically have static pods would be used as disaster recovery, right? So if something will do the normal. So first thing, when upgrading a single master with self-hosting, we write we duplicate the current 1.7 API server manifest to a static pod. The static pod API server starts crash looping as it can't bind the port. Then we upgrade the real API server, which removes the self-hosted API server pod and adds the new one, right? In a small time frame, the controller manager and scheduler will talk to the static pod API server. And then we can then 1.8 API server comes up self-hosted and we can proceed. So, and then we repeat this procedure with controller manager and scheduler. But the only difference here is that we use, in case something goes wrong, we can revert easily by using the static pods.
I like rolling through the static pods, not because it's clean, but one, it's consistent, and two, it gives you a sort of a fail-safe scenario. So yeah. There's always going to be Bondo. This is Bondo. or as Craig likes to call it, aggressive glue.
If we're rolling through static pods, though, does that reduce the need for the checkpointing stuff you're building, Tim? Because the checkpointing stuff effectively is letting the kubelet write static pods for us. So do we not need that if our strategy is just to use static pods directly? We do, because we're not executing kubeadm. This is just for upgrade. Then we're still everything. We just use a static pod for a short period of time, as fallback.
The self-hosting, the checkpointing is for the restart condition, not necessarily the upgrade condition. So we would fail the restart condition where we restart the machine and nothing would come back online. So
yeah, also a fun thing. So that is basically. I mean, while having we can't execute this remotely, it feels way safer. Anyway, because, if something goes really wrong, we can just, we know what we had running as self-hosted things. We can then, erase everything and just write the old manifest back to the static pod place. Then we're, back to stage one, where we once were a static pod cluster. Then we can maybe even ask the user, should we upgrade to self-hosting again or not? Right. So basically, we pivot from static pods to self-hosting, and then for upgrades, we basically pivot back to static pods as if we'd started a new cluster with static pods, and then we pivot back to self-hosting. So the question is, do we use the same strategy for HA, or do we do HA differently? HA is just a normal. So the single master case would just insert some hooks in between, some hooks to add, to fake this high availability thing where you have something that picks up the requests in between. But the generic thing would be the same. Like we just issue an update to the daemon set. In AJ, this just works. In static, like in the single master case, we have to add some hooks to actually do static pod pivoting in between, right? So, well.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Then we have an agreement there. I'll write that down to the upgrades doc that, well, in 1.8, we used option 2. In 1.8, we aimed to use option 1 with the daemon set thing, but we settled on option 3 to fall back to static pods.
It's not pretty, but it's consistent with how we do at least the initial pivots, right? Because the initial pivot's the same way. So if it's possible if it's possible to reuse that code, that might be beneficial too.
Yeah. So, okay, great. And then we also have the... So, is Jamie here?
I do not see Jamie. We could poke him on Slack.
Yeah, because, I mean, he has some recent activity on GitHub in his PR. Add self-hosted etcd API to kubeadm. Oh, well, is there someone taking notes, or should we fill in?
We should be taking notes if someone isn't taking notes.
Let's see. Well,
about the HA stuff, I also wanted to check in on the state of the doc. I haven't taken another pass or a first pass through the doc, and I haven't poked other people at Google to take a pass on the doc, because when we discussed last week, it was still under sort of heavy iteration and not really ready for wider review. Where is it now? Do we have it sort of ready for wider review that people should start taking a look, or are we still iterating on it? Wait.
Fabrizio,
I think now or never. Yeah.
That's what I want to know, right? Like, do I wait or do I read it now? I guess the answer is read it now and poke other people.
From my perspective, I need still some contribution from Tim and Lucas, and I think that we should address better the question that you raised yesterday about the capability or the possibility to create a free master at the same time, instead of having init master and then join init and then join other master. So the answer is, for me, is better that we address those three topics before to share with many other people.
I don't have strong feelings. I know the motivation behind wanting to have all the masters up at once, but that seems like you need some pre-filling of like certs and stuff.
Yeah, so it is for your use case where you have something like COPS or maybe something that executes locally on your node, so you can like generate certificates locally, distribute them to all masters or whatever cloud environment you have with whatever technique, then set up external etcd, or maybe etcd is hosted somewhere already, and just run kubeadm init all around.
It's a tooling constraint, really, because they don't. If they want to have a declarative way of doing it, like with Terraform or whatnot, Terraform doesn't like passing around data from A to B to C. So,
yeah. So I was thinking more like we have some place that is like where you generate the certificates, and then that is not a master, and then you distribute from that place to all masters. So yeah, but I don't know if we have to have that in the doc. I mean, isn't this something that works today? Right? I don't know. I haven't tested, but I think it should.
I think you can today. I don't see why you can't. If you wanted to do HA with an external tooling
Yeah,
today,
I mean,
you can by using the certs and passing it all through.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I've seen blog posts about such stuff, so I believe it's working.
Fabrizio?
No, I was thinking yesterday after the meeting, I went, I checked also the new cluster API to see if somehow this fit under the API. The API basically introduced the concept of instance groups, from my understanding. So if I look at the bootstrap process, I need some kind of seed, some kind of point where everything starts. I can limit this to generate the certificates, or I can go till the generate the first master node. But this is something that is separated from the, let me say, regular master node, the additional master node. So from one, I agree with the fact that this is something which is related to the tooling, to how we bootstrap. But from the other side, it is something that everyone needs. So it's a matter of where we put the trade-off. I don't have the answer, honestly. I would like, for instance, if I look at how Kubicorn works, there is a master group of node and then nodes. It would be interesting to go with the same pattern instead of complicating too much the life of people handling the clusters.
So, but sorry, go ahead.
Please go, Lucas.
But I don't see exactly how this ties into AJ directly.
If I look, my understanding from the cluster API proposal, and which is, let me say, more or less similar to what Kubicorn does, is that you define a group of nodes, and there is the group of nodes which is master, and the group of nodes which is the workers. And then, let me say, inside a group, all the nodes are equal. That means that, for instance, they start, all those nodes starts from the same init script. I don't know if you have the same.
So I think this is what Tim was saying before, is we sort of have two different use cases. One use case is a person who's manually using kubeadm. I think for that use case, doing one at a time makes perfect sense. And the other use case is for tools like Kubicorn or KubeSpray, where we want to basically say, this is what a master node looks like, and have that exactly the same between all master nodes. And I think what Lucas was saying is it's okay in the latter situation to say it's then the tool's responsibility to distribute certs out of band and run kubeadm, sort of skipping the cert generation step, so that you can run it exactly the same way on each master.
Yeah, and also that the same goes for node joining. So we also have this, well, you can just copy a kubeconfig file with the discovery information, like the CA cert to trust and the master endpoint. You can do that just fine today since 1.6, I think, for node joining. So then the concern that you, well, execute different scripts for different nodes depending on when they join isn't that critical, because you have a file that has been distributed to the node, and then it's all the same. You can rotate the token if you want. That's not a problem. So yeah, I think there's like two major use cases. One for like interactively typing the kubeadm command for a new user, and to the more automated with Terraform or whatever, or the cluster API, the automated execution of kubeadm. And I think the automated AJ thing works today, where we just punt on the hard AJ stuff on the tooling to say that, well, we assume you have an etcd cluster. We assume you can pass certs around. But the main goal here is to do the like interactive flow where you, well, let's set up a cluster for you, and well, we need to get the certs through somehow from A to B. Does that answer your question, Fabrizio, or concerns?
He's still muted. Maybe we can ping him on chat and come back.
So the main point of topic was, if we pop back up the stack, was should we be opening up the document for broader review? And I don't know where we're at with that. It's a huge.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm looking briefly through it now.
Could you repost the link in the chat? I have so many windows open.
Yeah.
I can't.
What I was going to say is, instead of doing that, why don't we send a message to SIG Cluster Lifecycle saying, this talk is ready for wider review. Please take a look. We are planning to address comments and merge before next Tuesday's meeting, and sort of set a deadline and just get it going.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. To like share it with a wider group, set a deadline, and work on the. I mean, I will take a full review of it now.
Why don't we say next Wednesday so that this smaller group can do the final thing? Because so we give a last PSA announcement at the SIG meeting. Speak now or forever, please.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. And yeah, I mean, overall, it has really been cleaned up and improved to like merge these two docs together. And it's something we can actually commit into Git soon. I'll address the last comments here. Later today. So what we'll still have outstanding? Yeah, what's the most important thing to talk about here?
Well, Jamie's not here right now. I would have liked to talk about where he's at with the operator. I know he said he was going to rebase the patch and rejig it so that it didn't have the dependency loop. And I was kind of curious where he was with that. I think that's.
So please proceed. Yeah.
Okay. That's the latest PR. I haven't gone through my email backlog.
Oh yeah, so I just got the notification of that PR and add AJ feature gate and min version validation. I'll paste that as well. So like in the latest hours, he has posted these ones.
Okay, perfect.
I haven't either been able to look at them yet, but looks cool. What else? Yeah, so updated my upgrades doc proposal. So it's a few last the last sections are still in the works, but basically the full proposal is ready to review. Just have to clean up some wording in the last items, so we could get that off my list. Well, so have we talked about upgrades and AJ with this? Oh well, so there's one more concern or thing we should talk about here in the broader SIG meeting, and that is certificate rotation. So kubeadm went beta in 1.6, right? In March. The certs are generated for 1 year. The user has been able to upgrade seamlessly to 1.7 with the re-kubeadm init thing, then upgrade to 1.8 with the kubeadm upgrade command, and the cert will expire in 1.10. So, that is...
Which cert was set for a year? Is that the cluster CA cert, or is that the serving certs, on the API server?
I think it's only the serving certs.
Do you know what the time frame of the cluster CA cert is?
Not by heart. I could... Let me see here. We have phases certs, and so I don't know if that's even, but probably a year as well. I mean, we don't set anything. What might be the default for the CA? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what the default value is.
So at least
the default for any cert, it's whatever the cert default is. If you're not setting an explicit value, it's not going to be different because it happens to be a CA. Because that's just a couple of bits you set in the cert.
Yeah. Well, if we have to rotate the CA, then it gets tricky.
That's what I was asking. That's a lot harder than just generating a new API, because you could presumably, if you have the private key for the CA cert, you can just generate a new API server cert on every upgrade and refresh the 1 year thing. And then basically you're telling people you have to upgrade at least once a year for your cert not to expire. But that is because the CA cert doesn't expire.
That's a dangerous game, but which I kind of like, but I'm also terrified of the implications.
I like it partly because, well, Kubernetes is supported for 9 months, right? So then we actually have, if you want to be on the supported part, you have to upgrade once a year. So
this is the stick part of carrot and stick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen for most of our customers at Google is that people upgrade at least every other release, and a lot of people are realizing they should pick up sort of every release because there's so many bug fixes, right? Things are changing so fast, and getting fixes are often not backported very far, that it's sort of prudent to keep your cluster up to date.
Other environments though are I can't speak to details that I know about, but some people are terrified of upgrades because of some issues that have occurred over the time. And so as a result, there are people who are still, I know, that are running with 1.1, right?
Wow.
Because
we have customers terrified of upgrades too, but we don't let them go that far back.
Well, the problem is when you support people that are not in a hosted environment, you can't tell them when to upgrade, right? So it's up to them to do it. You can advise all you want, and we're an open source project, so we can say some things. I kind of like this idea, even though I might regret it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the right plan. We probably want to also build some sort of certificate rotation command and so forth, right? And we're going to have to probably do that for the CA. But I think that by default, if we just always replace a couple of the certs on every upgrade, that's going to eliminate a lot of the issues. There are people, if they're staying up to date, will never have to think about doing it manually outside of that time frame, right?
Yeah, I mean, from that perspective, it's absolutely great, because I don't want to like remember, as a user, I don't want to remember like, well, when was it my cert will expire and such things. I just want to like upgrade when I see new stuff coming, I guess, and then have it handled for me. Yeah, so, oh, well, our CA is 10 years. Wow. Could I guess that?
Perfect. Mike Denise probably stuck that in there after realizing that he didn't want to deal with certificate rotation.
That was much more than I expected. And yeah, just to confirm, yeah, our serving cert is 1 year. What did you write?
I was just joking. Like if your cert's suddenly expired, your whole web assets go down.
Yeah. So, well, how do we achieve that with self-hosting? It should be pretty straightforward, right? Because we just update the secret. If we assume the secret thing, we just update the secret in the cluster, do a rolling upgrade of our masters, and that will do. I mean, changing a config map doesn't reload the pod automatically, right?
Say that one more time.
So if we change the config map, well, if we change the secret resource, like we generate a new API server serving cert, update the API server serving cert secret, and then upgrade from, like, let's say 1.8 to 1.9 when using self-hosting. Then when the 1.9 API server comes up, it will have the new config map, the new secret, right? But actually, just writing the new secret won't reload the pod.
Not unless you force it somehow. There's still no SIG up mechanism to pods, is there?
No. There was a Signal API proposal some time ago, but it got abandoned for reasons I don't remember. But anyway, I don't think the kubelet downloads secrets as they are updated, or?
I think it actually does. I think it does a watch on the secrets and config maps, and it does a refresh. But I don't believe that it will tickle the pod unless the pod has some type of watcher for it, because there was a recent condition where we were talking about this with config maps where it actually does reload them.
Oh.
So don't quote me on this. I think this is the case. I need to verify.
Yeah, we need to check that. But if it doesn't reload, which I don't think it does right now, like it doesn't kill the pod and reload the contents of the binding, then we should be good to go to just update the secret with the serving cert, then do a roll, like the normal upgrade procedure, and well, boom, there we go. The API server started with a new secret, with a new serving cert.
We need to double check.
Yeah.
And it's possible too that I don't know how you're going to get around this without like you tearing down and restarting, or somehow forcing a restart. There's no. The only other way you could do this is to have some type of hijack mechanism, which I don't particularly like.
So yeah, so I mean, a restart will happen in any case, right? Because if we are on 1.8, we have some kind of secret, like the old the serving cert that's going to expire. Then we upgrade to 1.9, and we do this static pod jiggery, right? Then the API server is going to be teared down, and the 1.8 is going to be the 1.8 API server is going to be killed, and the 1.9 API server pod is going to be created. And when the 1.9 API server pod comes online, it will fetch the latest secret, which has like newly generated certificates. So that should work, right? in theory.
I think you need to test it out.
Yeah. Anyway, that's great. I mean, we can write it down as our intended goal, or something like that. Is there any other cases for upgrades and AJ that we haven't talked about?
We've been avoiding the context for this release cycle, but we can start to talk about it with regards to how we want to do load balancing to the masters. And one thing I was thinking about is, at least to start to percolate in your minds, is the notion of potentially, in the future, potentially deploying Envoy as a possible means to get around this, right? Because Envoy would give you the local client connection for the proxy that could auto load balance the API servers, and could have a separate controller that, updates those routes as masters come and go. And this gets you out of the business entirely of having to do your own local load balancing.
Does Envoy have Kubernetes integration support yet?
People are working on. There's various things going on now, and Istio is weird. It's neat and weird at the same time. It's not fully baked, but I think what we're looking for is a special purpose use case. And I think there are a number of people working on it right now. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it should work. Well, if it had something that could just generically fetch, or if it had something that could generically load balance traffic from a VIP to a service, that would basically do it. I mean, and that's a generic thing.
That's what Envoy is built to do. So
yeah, I mean that should have lots of user requests anyway, I think. So yeah.
At least we can start to percolate on this idea, and we can maybe address it in the next cycle. I don't think we're going to have bandwidth or time to address the sucker, but I just wanted to throw that out there as an idea, because I've been tinkering with the thought of it, and it's much cleaner than everything else I've thought of.
It indeed is.
Because it solves you could potentially solve two problems with one stone, right? With deploying Envoy, you solve the ingress problem, which sucks, right? If you set it up that way, but you could also solve the proxying to the HA master solution, which also sucks with what currently happens here today.
Yeah. One question is, would it, we have a reboot condition here as well, right? Or if you deploy Envoy as a daemon set or static pod, whatever, then reboot, and your kubelet can't find the master because it's talking to a VIP that doesn't exist. Envoy has to come up, and it has to get information somewhere, like where did I, to what clients did I talk to the last time?
Yeah, I think I'd have to dig in the details, but I'm pretty sure there's a I don't know if there's a checkpointing for it for restarting, but there is a separate storage facility for Envoy, and I'd have to verify what that storage facility is and how it works. I am not an expert on it by any far stretch of the imagination. I'm basically playing with the blocks. And it sounds like a good idea, but the devil's in the details, and I have not dug into the details.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, reusing tech that is built to solve a specific problem is much better than like rolling a custom solution that nobody uses like nobody patches anyway, right? Beyond us.
Yes, exactly. So I think, thinking about it and maybe us having enough time to read up on it for the next cycle seems like a reasonable thing. And then we can potentially address it going forwards. Because in my mind, at least, it sounds way nicer than most of the other possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, the other possibilities are like kubeproxy, like self-hosting the kubeproxy.
Which I hate. Yeah.
Yeah. That would force us to know whether we're using IP tables or IPVS, for example, which is a great downside. And we have to checkpoint deploy some kind of network IP tables checkpointer for that to work for reboots. So yeah, it has those downsides. Then the other proposal that has come up is, well, we basically write our own static pod thing that, well, checkpoint somewhere, write some IP tables rules or whatever for a VIP and watches the Kubernetes service. But that would be a lot of extra maintenance overhead for us to do. And I mean, race conditions all around could happen. So, and yeah, such details. So absolutely. If we can reuse that, it would be great.
Lucas, I think that we need something similar also in this cycle, because I was thinking, for instance, how we can implement end-to-end test. If we implement end-to-end test for HA, we need some kind of proxy of a load balancer in front to be able to spin up quickly and so on. So it's just a note in the document is that might be that we need to create a Docker or whatever that provide quick and dirty load balancer for spinning up an HA cluster. We can use HA proxy or whatever, but why not? If we think that Envoy could potentially be part of the solution instead of being in front of the solution, we can start experimenting with this.
I think experimenting and reading up is a good idea. I don't know where I want to enqueue the thought process, as someone I talk with all the time mentions, let the idea percolate and see if logistically it makes sense, and then reevaluate once we have like some POCs available. But every solution I've seen thus far, I don't particularly like, and it feel is very, very hacky. But this poses an opportunity for this possible solution.
Yeah, and if nothing else, like we might go with the kubeproxy thing for like one cycle, or just to get it somewhat done, or whatever. But yeah, definitely not the long-term solution there. So thinking about Envoy and starting to mock with it and hack things around would be great. Yeah. Yeah, that should be it. Or
I've got no other topics for today. I think we hit every major issue or major element.
Yeah, I think so. And so we're basically gonna, Fabrizio, can you send a quick email to the SIG Cluster Lifecycle mailing list, just saying that, well, I've consolidated and unified Lucas and Tim's doc, and here is the result. Where this week we're reviewing it and sharing it with the broader group. Please take a look at it, and we'll address comments coming up.
But it does not make sense that you go through the document and then we send the email.
So the idea is that we'll do these things in parallel.
Okay, but if you can go quick, and because in the end of the document there is all the implementation detail that we agreed to move in a separated document, so we can simplify, remove a part which we are not asking feedbacks on.
Okay. Okay.
And, and then in the middle of the document there is two or three parts written in red, where we can decide to add more detail or not. I think that it is an hour of work.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll do that hour of work now. And I mean, if you send it basically today, still, I will, like, if you give me write access to the doc, I'll fix the things in red and have it ready to like. Basically, you can share it now. It will take hours and maybe days for people to notice and get cycles to work on it anyway. So yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. I give you the right. I ping you later to see how we are, if we are ready, and later this night I send the email.
Yeah, just like give me myself and Tim write access to it, and you'll see some progress.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, cool. I think we are done.
Yeah, I think we have got 6 minutes back to our day. Cool.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.